Folks are back. This is Steve Sampson with Steve Sampson with another episode of Veterans of Politics. Today, our guest is going to be Dr. Jon Petrick. He's going to be discussing disability issues and concerns. Dr. Petrick, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good.
Tell us about yourself.
I have been a practicing physician in Las Vegas for 23 years, various different capacities, mostly surrounded by sports and personal injury. Obviously I'm surrounded by paperwork, and I'd seen the mountains of paperwork that was coming in. So there's some solutions that we have that we'd want to share with you tonight and to the viewers too. So,
okay. Well, how did you get involved in this disability issues? Exactly what is it about?
Well, you know, we lose 22 servicemen or women every day, Steve, to either suicide. And if you start to look at the opioid and all of the things that are happening around the opioid and epidemic and all of those things, you see it as a practitioner in healthcare. You see it in your friends, in your circles. Having a family member, several family members that were served my dad, Colonel in the Marine Corps, was my stepfather. He served in the Marines. My father was in the Army. Numerous friends. And because we're a civ, we're a civilian, we really can't ever comprehend what happens to military people, especially when they're deployed from long periods of time without their families, what they deal with in combat. We don't, as civilians, really have that understanding. And as a physician, one of the biggest challenges sometimes is the paperwork. Mm-hmm. So when an individual comes back from the service and they're trying to file for a disability, maybe they have a bad knee, a bad back, they're a paratrooper and they something happens, they're shot, who knows? Sometimes it's now post-traumatic stress disorder or, you know, a simulation anxiety and various different titles now. Regardless of the disability, one of the things that makes it so challenging is the paperwork that's associated with it. So when a veteran comes into someone like myself, maybe for basic pain management, where they're just coming in, they're going to have to already fill out the documents for the doctors to see them, whether it be me or any other doctor. When you're filing for a disability, there's paperwork. I'll give you an example. For low back pain, so let's say you're a guy, you got low back pain. When you fill out that disability paperwork for that particular injury or that particular disability, it's 35 pages. They're in small boxes. The whole entire system is made almost as a deterrent because they get frustrated. You see it all the time. They don't want to do it. They're upset. My God, you fill it out. If you don't have PTSD, you will after you fill that out. So for me, I'm a solutions person. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a solutions person, but I'm also, philanthropic is kind of where my heart is. So a friend of mine actually brought this to me. His name is Matt Friedman. He came to me as a patient and he said, hey, I came across something I think that can make the lives of veterans so much easier if we automated the intake. In addition to that, let's bring it all together under one roof, because what people don't know is in order for you to qualify for disability, you have to have a medical doctor, a PhD or a medical doctor, an attorney, an adjudicator decide and confirm that there's an actual disability. Then that paperwork gets submitted. And if you have all three that are in concordant data, it gets sent off and that person is awarded a certain percentage, maybe 50%, 60%, depending upon the severity of their disability. So we also provide that. So we took care of it. That's what we did. We're a solutions-driven thing.
So is this just for VA disability only, or is it for everybody?
It's pretty much just for VA right now. We will open it up at some point, but we're beta testing it now. Now, what that means is that we've already set up the software. We already got the packaging. We already got the data trees and all the things that we need to run it. We just need volunteers. And as I came to you and I said, look, we would like to do it for free. There is a cost to associate it because the MD, the attorney, and everybody needs to be paid. But a lot of these programs that are similar don't have all three together. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they charge an upfront absorbent fee, and then they take a percentage of these veterans' money every single month. We don't do that. That's not who we are. We just really wanted to help them, get it done, pay the people that are helping them, and then we're off. We don't.
How you get paid?
If based upon a small piece of it, just from an administrative piece. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you a prime example. We'll just use something maybe like we'll use just like an elbow condition, not saying that losing an arm or limb, but we're not talking that. We're talking some sort of injury. Right. Let's say that was a small thing. That may be a $2,500 fee. X amount goes to the doctors, the adjudicator, and the attorney, and a small portion of it goes to the actual processing of the paperwork, and all of that goes along with it, the admin. That's it. That's all. There is no other fees. There's no other thing to it. That's one of the reasons why we've been successful. And right now, with what we're doing is the beta testing, because we want feedback from veterans who are trying to get a disability or want an increase in their disability. And what we need is those volunteers to come, and we're not charging for this initial piece because we want to perfect it, Steve. One of the things that's very important is that when we put it out there to them, that they're giving us all the feedback that we need to make it a better program. Right. So we're right there at the beta test. It's called Veterans Disability Solutions is the name of the company. And we'll have everything under one roof. They can come in and they can meet the attorney, the MD, and the adjudicator all in there, do all their visits, go through our paperwork and our processing, which is kind of online. It's automated. But we want the feedback, what they didn't like, what they do like, so that when we launch it, it really is, I want to say, veteran created in a sense to where it's right around what they're needing. Meaning I could have it populated. We can populate it versus upon what their disability is, so they don't got to type it in. You know, they can, once they put in their information, it could duplicate on multiple pages. A lot of little things that we have that, one, very seldom, if there's anybody out there that actually has automated it and put it technologically on for our veterans. Most of them are paperwork, especially because they come from the government. It's miserable. You know the process.
So I actually did mine myself.
Okay.
And it took years. But walk me through, a veteran shows up to your location and says, hey, you know, I have an injury when I was in the military, and I have some lower back pain. Go.
First, they wouldn't initially come in. We wouldn't want them to come in yet until we had an opportunity to provide them with the information they would need to bring. So what would happen is, let's call them a lead. Someone contacts us through our website. Right. At that point, they're contacted back immediately by a live person. Says, hey, listen, you know you contacted us. And we get we'll call it the story. What is the story of the injury? What is their medical history of the injury? What records do they have? What records do we need? And we actually kind of walk them through. Okay. Then what we want to do ultimately is set up their initial consultation. Can be telehealth, which we were speaking about before we went on air. It could be telehealth, which is a great thing. But typically we want to see them for the actual adjudication process. They need to be in person. You need to actually see the actual person. They would come in, they would go through their initial consultation with the physician. If there's certain criteria for diagnostics that they would need or certain legal documents we need, that's why we have the attorney. And then the adjudicator looks at what does the MD declare, what does the attorney, and then we bring it all together. So the whole process isn't something that's done in one day. You know that you said you took years. We could probably do that within a very short period of time, probably 30, 60, 90 days, depending upon how organized the person is. And that's one of the great things about a lot of the veterans, Steve, that we have worked with. They're organized. A lot of the veterans are organized. Their paperwork, they're so used to checklists, they have a lot of their data. And they're also told by their people in the VA, keep this paperwork, so they do. So the good news is a lot of veterans have it. But they may have it from various different sources. If they're moving around the country, we may have to get it from different VAs. So there's a process before we can just say, hey, here's your disability. And they have to qualify. And a lot of times what happens is they get stuck on the damn paperwork where they don't even want it. It's a barrier of entry, and it's crushing. Look, I will tell you that I'm still yet to have met a man as intelligent and as quick-witted as he was a fighter pilot. So I mentioned my stepfather, Colonel. The man was just a brilliant man. And I would remember him coming out, dealing with what he dealt with from Camp Lejeune and him being over in Vietnam. And I remember him coming out and saying to me, this is a plan. And I said, what is? And he said, this. And he held up documents. And he was so sorry. He was so pissed off that he had to fill. He's like, I'm a smart person. Colorful marine language. I'm a smart, and he said, and I'm struggling to fit this stuff in there. I'm struggling to, you duplicate so many times. He goes, I can't imagine somebody that is struggling at any level filling this out. He goes, this is designed to be this way. Someone's got to fix this. And that was kind of like, it was stuck in my mind. So when my friend Matt came to me, I was like, oh man, this can be fixed. We can do better. We can really change the lives of the people who deserve it. They've earned it. Part of our motto is because they've earned it. We do not do anything that if you haven't deserved it, we take that seriously. If it's not for me to decide that, there's a doctor, there's an attorney, and there's an adjudicator. They decide it collectively. That's the deal. But we want every single person to maximize their disability and get what's coming to them. They've earned it. And right now, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure this happens. You see what's happening to our current military in the political environment we're in. And Steve, someday we may need them. You never know. Someday we may need them. And I would rather have a fighting force that we took care of and said, hey, it was worth doing, rather than one that said, you turned your back on me. And the whole entire disability DBQ process is almost like we're turning our back on them. It's so antiquated and set up for failure that I can understand the stress that these individuals go through. And we want to fix it, either improve it or, just at least get them on. So basically, they bring all these documents that you need. What happens if they don't have any documents? What happens if it's something like Gulf War syndrome? They don't have documents, but they know they have the ailments. Well, that's why we do a very thorough medical evaluation, whether it be psych.
Doctor that's there?
It'll be psych. And not necessarily, we're looking at this eventually to go multi-state. Mm-hmm. But like anything else, we're in the beta test. We're pretty far along that beta test. Now we're ready to test, excuse the expression, alive humans. Right. We're willing to do, that's where we're at. Once we get that, then we'll go into other communities and be able to offer this to other communities as an asset to the veterans in each community. But right now, it's got to be person to person with an attorney, with adjudicator, with that person. They'll bring that in. They get an evaluation. Once we deem that there's a legitimate malady or there's a disability, then they go through that process.
What would you need an attorney?
Well, an attorney confirms it and they make all the legal documents. A lot of times there's notary. A lot of times there's legal counsel on what, there's a lot of legal questions that come up and surround that. And as part of the government's solution is to make sure that there's an attorney there that's kind of on the hook, if you will, the kind of concierge in a sense. And then you got the adjudicator that makes sure that certifies that there's an actual disability. Right. And the attorney makes sure the paperwork is done and they submit that for that person. So if you are a veteran, the fastest and best way to make sure that you're receiving it is get an attorney. Right. But attorneys, look, they're savvy and they want money and they want paid. I mean, God bless them. I got a brother that's an attorney. Say no more.
They need to get paid just like a mechanic.
That's my point. They need to get, that's right. And they do. And that's why there's a fee up front to get the attorney, the adjudicator, and the medical guy, medical physician paid.
How much is that fee?
Depends upon the number of areas, typically between $2,500 and $5,000. Depending upon the areas. Like for instance, if somebody came in and said, I got an elbow, I broke my elbow, or this is my disability, I can't bend it. What treatment have you tried? Go through the gamut, making sure that there's no possible realm for physical therapy, whatever that is, and now they're deemed that. Now you take that individual that fell from the helicopter, chute didn't open, it's streamered. Next thing you know, they hit the ground, they got a back, they got a neck, they got a shoulder, they got all of this. It may seem like a high price to pay. Let's say it's $7,500 even. But imagine what happens when they're guaranteed that they're pretty much guaranteed or they don't pay. We got a money back guarantee. We did this to make this a risk-free offer. So even if they do pay, if we can't get it, they don't pay because we will guarantee it. So
they pay up front?
They pay up front.
And if you don't get it, you give it to them back?
We refund their money, yeah. And we're not necessarily too select.
All of it or some of it?
It's all of it goes back because we won't take the client unless we know that we can pretty much guarantee that they were going to do that. Gotcha. And a lot of times they've gotten it already. I'll give you an example. Some veterans will come in and they'll already have a certain disability rating. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's 70%. We'll just throw a number hypothetical out there. We may not be able to get them an increase, but we really just want to evaluate that for them. So for that, there's no charge. And if they were to pay money and we get through the process and we find out, now if we get to the process where we find out there was any type of dishonesty, then there's some paperwork to that. If I've spent the money of everybody then, and they lied about anything, then I'm sorry, they forfeit that. But other than that occasion, we don't run into that really. But if we would, that would be the fallout from it. But we pretty much guarantee that we'll increase a disability or we'll get them on. They pay. Getting back to that, some of these disabilities are $5,000, $10,000 a month, depending upon the rank, depending upon all the things that go into that. But even if it's $1,000, $2,000, depending upon where they're at, we want to get every penny back for them we can, whether that be increasing their current disability or getting them a disability that they can't. But
disability is usually about $3,900 a month.
Right.
It depends on how many dependents they have.
Correct. Dependents, as well as the interesting thing for us was when we started looking into it is that when you started adding on the disabilities, people don't know that there's actually, it's cumulative. You can have multiple disabilities. Now you're seeing a huge thing with Camp Lejeune and some of the conditionings that are there. Mm-hmm. I really don't have.
It's Camp Lejeune. It's the earbuds.
Yep.
That apparently they were faulty. That's an issue. And It's also the PACT Act with the Gulf War syndrome, with the burning pits, oil pits. But what happens if these? I hear feedback. What happens if these veterans can't afford to pay? Because a lot of them probably can't.
You know, we have plans, and that's one of the reasons why we're starting out, asking people to call in. If you want to try out our program, call us. Make sure you have our number, contact information. They can call in. We will plan on taking a portion of the proceeds and putting it back into the program, so that if we deem someone a financial hardship, or we want to create like a scholarship program for them. This whole thing is designed obviously to keep itself to be self-funding and continue it to grow. But it really is about taking care of the veterans. So we are going to have that. We do have a pay it forward program where if you're someone who does get a disability, can you pay it forward? Can you be like, look, I want to donate, I would like, when I get my first check, I want to donate X to a veteran that may not be able to afford it. And we do a scholarship. So there's various ways to get it done. When you're a Marine, you appreciate this. It's either over the hill, under the hill, through the hill, but we're getting on the other side. So we're just going to we're finding that
under, above, left, or right, or through.
That's right, and that's what we're coming into. And it's an exciting, because there's so many veterans out there that you come across that really have earned it, and they just especially in the Marine Corps. A lot of the guys a little bit of pride, and I'm like, guys, man, if you have it, take it. You've earned it. It isn't as if you're being given anything. You've earned it. It's yours. So that's what we want to see. I'm also a member of the Marine Corps League and Leatherneck Club. My brother and I, Jeff, joined, and that's a program that we'd like to encourage.
My name is on the wall over there.
Come on.
It is on the wall, sir.
Really. No, I've been over there with for the celebration when they do their birthday with General Bedard. And
he's up in age now.
Yeah, but he's still tough.
Yeah.
I think it was still as classy, still as sassy, still capable of something. Anyhow, he had a good funny saying, but anyhow, Leatherneck Club. Yeah.
So when did you come up with this idea to help the veterans get their disability ratings?
It was brought to me. I had always wanted to do something. I just couldn't find out what it was. So oftentimes in my clinics, we would give discount care. We'd give veterans discounts. Would even, throw in some pro bono work for veterans who were really, really needing it.
And what care are you talking about? Your care?
We do chiropractic, physical therapy, stem cell therapy. We do hormone replacement. So if someone came in and you'd be surprised, oh my God, we could spend a whole show on that for men and women, especially coming out of the Corps and out of the services. There's a lot of hormone interaction when you come back and you're simulating and you're living in adrenaline, and then you come out and you don't have adrenaline other than the red light. There's a lot of hormonal aspects or purpose. But for the most part, when you can help regulate someone's hormones, you really can regulate mood and manner. A lot of times, I think a lot of the veterans are coming out especially when they've been in the service for a while. Yeah. They're hormone imbalanced, but you're not checking for that as a military person. You're like, hey, I'm hurting, I go. Yeah. You're not really checking. No one's checking wellness aspect like they should. So a lot of times we find a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder and a lot of things are actually caused by hormonal imbalances. So we offer that. Stem cells, it's the kind of the future of medicine. It's actually the replication of tissue. It's regeneration of tissue. It's kind of where we're heading as a society. I would rather prevent a disease, Steve, than treat one. Any physician that's worth anything and cares about their patients would say, look, I would much rather, prevent one than treat one. So wellness is that. But we also offer some really solid, I spent 12 years on Dana White's reality TV show, putting athletes together on the UFC. So part of it's physical medicine. Yeah, 12 years.
Were you on the camera?
Yeah, well, you see many times I did interviews when that had relevance, but actually, in a sense, I was paid to be off camera, but I took care of all the athletes on every show for 12 years, and then 2 additional years intermittently. But you named it, from Ronda Rousey to Anderson, BJ, Connor.
Ronda was my girl.
She's tough, man. I'll tell you, the toughest woman on the UFC was Ronda's mother. She came one time. I'm not kidding you. She came, and I was sitting there, and I heard her give it was like a mistake. When I saw Ronda, I said, Mom, what do you think? And her mom, she lit into them and said, you guys look at this as a sport. To me, this is life and death. And there's a difference when you step on the mat with me I'm coming there under no circumstance am I losing, you know. And she's like, I think about someone taking my kids. And I was listening to her mother and I was going, this woman, and she's a bitty little thing. I mean, I was just like, and she would destroy you. I was just like, thank God. I pity the guy that would even say something. She was intimidating. It's a very, very powerful woman. Good woman.
Funny you say that, life or death. That's exactly how I look at politics.
Yeah, especially now.
Life or death.
Especially now.
Because you put an asshole into office, that's what you're going to get, death. If you put somebody in office that's brilliant, humble, compassionate, empathetic, you're going to get life.
See, that's a great segue for me if I could touch on this, because I believe that's where my candidacy, not to go that we didn't talk about it, but one of the things I don't want to go there, but I do want to mention, as a physician, I took an oath. Mm-hmm. And that oath was for me to love every human being that was put in front of me, whether it didn't matter the color of their skin, their sexuality, their political involvement. I took that oath 24 years ago. Mm-hmm. And when I took that oath, I meant it. And for 24 years, I've served this community in various ways, but I lived that oath. Mm-hmm. As a politician, I think that having more medical people in legislation helps. Mm-hmm. It's a different way of looking at it. And I'll give you an example. I look at a win-win. I don't care what color the skin is, or if they have cancer, or they have something, I'm going to fix them. I don't care what sexuality they are when they come to me. I'm going to fix them. Mm-hmm. You take that in comparison to how I'm trained. That's how we're trained. It's in our dogma. But I'll compare that to an attorney where the attorney, and I'm not criticizing the attorneys by any means, but there's a win and a lose always. They're always winning for their client. They're always losing for their client, but it's never really a win-win, which I would love to see more of. Mm-hmm. But their dogma is to always win for your client. And I agree with it. If that's your profession and you want attorney that's going to win, no one says, hey, give me the attorney that's lost every case. You want the attorney who's going to win, but it's win at all costs. Yeah. So as a physician, I think I bring something different to that piece of it. And I think you do want that. And I was raised that there are two types of people on this planet, Steve, the humbled and the soon to be. And if you haven't been humbled, we'll stick around because it's coming. So if you have to stay humbled, and that's really what we need is humility. Mm-hmm. You know, we need to elect candidates, and that's my point, that understand humility. Mm-hmm. I don't want the candidate that's perfect, that's well greased. I don't really want that. I want the candidate that's going to, and they say, well, it's not a learning on the job situation. That's not true. There's a lot that I don't know, and it's disingenuous for me to come out and to pretend that I know it all.
Well, you know, our founding fathers were ranchers.
Absolutely.
Horseshoe fitters, mm-hmm. Cooks, mm-hmm. and all these other different professions, right? And that wrote the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And now we have all these lawyers. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what happened to this country, you know?
And again, it's not a bag on attorneys because they're great. And I work with some of the finest. I think that what I would probably say the message for people to hear is diversify. Diversify all of that. Mm-hmm. I would like to see some accountants. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I'd really like to see more accountants in politics. Mm-hmm.
Where's the money going? Right?
Well, that and also it's not necessarily where it's going, where it should go. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the first to admit, you know, I'll let the team down if my whole job is finance and money. That isn't my bag. That's not really where I'm good at. And I believe a leader truly should surround him with people who are strong in those areas. And there's a great book. It's called Who Not How. It's a fantastic, best-selling book, and it talks about, you know, Michael Jordan getting Scottie Pippen. He couldn't win until he got Scottie. Once he got Scottie, then he's winning NBA championships. But he couldn't win without his who, and Scottie was his who. So I think you got to find your who's, and leaders in politics need to do that as well. Don't be the smartest guy in every room, because people are going to get bored with it.
Surround yourself with
smarter people. Smarter, yeah, smarter absolutely. People. I like that. In my boardrooms with my companies now, it's formidable. Mm-hmm. I like the individuals that I work with. I like the executive team that I have. They're formidable. And what I value most, not necessarily their willingness to give it, because they do, is sometimes it's not what you want to hear. Yeah. Sometimes it's what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. Leadership is realizing that there's probably, if you continue down a course, being able to course correct. Mm-hmm. And that takes internal. You got to look in the mirror, and you can't lie to that man you shave every single morning. Somewhere that's going to catch you. So you got to make sure that you're being honest with yourself. And we need honest politicians that are honest with themselves and what they can and can't not do. And again, coming back to being grateful and humble. I think those are but getting back to the medical piece of it, I feel that as a candidate running for a particular position, I feel I offer a different perspective on how the legislation should be run, maybe.
Yeah. Aren't you running for office, by the way?
I am. I'm only going to mention it because I didn't want the veteran thing to kind of, jump on this. But yeah, Assembly District 21 in Henderson, kind of like Warm Springs, Maryland Parkway, Paseo Verde, and Horizon Ridge. If you're in that area, you're in my hood, you're in my community. I do want to mention something, if I can mention something. Sure. I think I would love to invite everybody listening to us tonight. And thanks for having me again. Anybody that's listening, I have a free event. It's called the Thin Blue Line event. I think you're going to be showing up, right?
Wounded police officer.
So, well, it's actually everything. 4 years ago, this is our 4th annual. My brother, Jon Petrick, mortgage banker. Great. If you need a mortgage out there, I'm going to throw him a line out there. He's the best. But we were seeing what was happening with the defund the police movement. Mm-hmm. We saw what was happening around the country, and I have over 300 patients that are police officers or correction or SWAT or firefighters. It just was like, wait, this isn't the narrative of who we are as a population and as a people. So my brother and I said, well, let's throw a party. We got some of our police friends and said, hey, invite your friends and let's go to this ranch. We want to throw you a dinner and let you know that we're not going to defund you. We're going to defend you. It was actually my brother Jeff's idea, and I kind of jumped on it. And anything I do, I like to do it big. And so it started out with 500. It was pretty much police officers, people. We had Jim Fossil, rest in peace, Jim. He was a New York Giants head coach. He came out, was sharing off his Super Bowl ring with everybody, and a few other celebs came out. And then the next year went to like 1,000 people, then 1,200. And this year we're expecting our biggest turnout. But it's at the McKee Ranch. It's near the Bass Pro Shops on Dean Martin and Raven. I'm sorry, the address is 8935, I think, South Dean Martin. I hate to throw that out there and not be correct, but it's close. You'll see it. We got Jefferson Starship. We got Ron Fleitas. It is the oldest and largest Hispanic Latino car club in the country. And they're bringing about 5 to 10 cars. And these guys, when you want to talk about paint schemes and some of the most beautiful. I mean, when you see these, you're going to go, oh my God, they're gorgeous.
Is there a price to get in this thing?
No, it's free. Oh. It's absolutely free. It's a community event. We need that, Steve. Here's the thing. Look at the prices right now. Everything is skyrocketed through the roof. It's crazy. And I hate to use that expression. People are getting, dredged through all of this economic crisis right now. And my brother and I said, you know what? We had it free the first time. We tried to do it. We're going to do it free again. Let's get back to just come out. If people want to make a donation to either a local nonprofit or they want to donate to the Wounded Blue, which is a good friend of mine by the name of Randy Sutton. He's a Fox contributor. He'll actually be in New York on set doing something for Fox News, but he was going to be there. But we're going to provide him with a check. So, and it's all the police officers that when they leave the force, sometimes there's a little bit of support.
Did you do this last year?
4 years. This will be our 4th year, Steve. So it's something.
Well, how much normally do you do the checks?
Yeah.
How much? Yeah. What's the normal amount?
It depends upon the people who attend.
What was last year?
1,000.
Okay.
This year we're going to give away 1,000 to them, but we added another charity, Wounded Firefighters. So we're going to do $1,000 for the Wounded Firefighters, $1,000 for the police, and it's really not about the money. It's about the community and about connecting. Right. And I think that's what we're missing. I think COVID took us away from who we are. And people don't know this, but as a physician, when you study, like you start looking at, neurophysics and some different types of things, our separation as a connected human is 6 feet. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, 6 feet is how far they wanted us to stay away from each other. They wanted us to lose that energy connection, and we did. And people did, and I see it. I still see people now that are avoiding each other, and it's sad to me, especially because I'm a hugger, man. You come around me, you're going to get a hug, whether you like it or not. I do the best. But anyway, I say that because it's like we got to get back to being around each other again. And we don't want our event to be an event where we're trying to make necessary money on. Right. If people want to donate, great. We have food trucks, some amazing food trucks. We got, again, Jefferson Starship, a few other people, Stephanie Calvert, Michael Vango. I mean, some really great musicians. They're coming. Bounce houses, pony rides. It's a wonderful event. It's from 7 to 11, September 9th at the McKee Ranch. It's near Bass Pro Shop. So that's my plug for it. So please come. You're more than welcome. It's not political. I want to go on record in saying, look, yes, I'm I'm a political person. I'm politically involved, but this is not a political event. This is community. We need to turn off that noise. There's so much noise with the media now portraying us as bigotry and hate, and everybody's a racist, or everybody's mad at somebody. Turn it off. Turn it off. Be a man enough or woman enough to turn off the noise and get back to what brought us here. That's American spirit and love for each other. And that's what this event is about. So it's absolutely free. We do ask, obviously you want your food, pay the food trucks. Pink Box Donuts. How about that? We even have Pink Box Donuts. And if you know anything about them, they're a Las Vegas company. They have, I believe, I talked to Steve Siegel, who Siegel owns the Pink Box Donuts, and he said it's been upgraded from the best donuts in the state to the country to the world. It's now the best donuts in the universe. Is the Pink Box Donut. So for anybody that wants the best donuts in the universe,
it's not good for your midsection. Though.
No, they do have healthy versions, vegan versions, or whatever. But
vegan
no, it is.
donuts. Well, it sounds like you're doing pretty good out there. And with the event and this new adventure that you have, helping veterans with their disability, that's a very humbling thing, because they need all the help they can get.
Yes, they do.
But I don't know about that $5,000, $7,000 thing that might throw them off a little bit.
You'll see that's standard. That's the standard. It's when we get the scholarships going, it'll cheapen up for them. But we're talking about, they're going to make $3,900 every month. So that initial investment
for the rest of their life.
For the rest of their life. So
I think
it's a small
turns
investment.
Permanent after a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we again, let me finish by saying to anybody out there that is interested, please contact. And if you don't mind, what I'd love to do is give you come through Steve, come through the Veterans Disability, come through you guys, Veterans of Politics. If you want to get a hold of us and you want to be the first 20 in for free, absolutely free, contact Steve, contact the show. Let us know, Steve, who comes in and who wants it, and we'll do it for free. We want your feedback. We want to make this right for you. So please reach out to myself or Steve.
So let me just recap. You guys get their disability paperwork going, and you turn it into the VA.
We handle everything from start to finish. Once we collect their data from them, we walk them through the entire process for either increase or an actual disability rating.
What happens if they get turned down? Do you appeal it as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. A lot of times it gets turned down. I hate to say this happens
because they turn everybody down. They're like Social Security.
Well, the good news is that because our processes, including the attorney, the adjudicator, and the medical doctor, which are not working and they're not in cahoots, they're totally separate. Right. Because you have them all in one, the likelihood of turn down is reduced drastically, dramatically, because we know where the number, we got to how to put this in. Yeah, we know how to automate it so that we know what needs to be here. Okay. And again, it's when you know the system, you can excel at it. And unfortunately, the way that it's set up, again, is for nobody to excel at it, actually for people to get PTSD from doing it.
Do you have anything else you want to add, or do we?
I think we covered it. I think I'll just say my name is Dr. Jon.
Hold on. Thank you for coming. Mark's going to zoom in on you, and you get the final say. And,
perfect.
And make sure that you let people know exactly where your facility is, or if there's a website or a QR code or whatever it might be. And plug that other event that you're doing on.
Okay, very good. Perfect. It's Dr. Jon Petrick, your candidate for Assembly District 21. I'm also the CEO of Ever Ready Health, Integrated Pain Relief, and Las Vegas Pain Relief Center. You can reach us at 702-985-2520. You could also check out my campaign website at drjon4 nevadaspelledout.com. But if you are a veteran out there and you want to get a hold of us, please just contact us at Integrated Pain Relief or one of our websites. I'll make sure I get that to you, Steve. You can put that up there for them. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you guys out there, all the veterans out there. You've earned it. It's a wonderful thing. Please show up, everybody, to the September 9th Thin Blue Line First Responders Appreciation Day with my brother Jeff and I. We want to celebrate you. If you're a first responder, please come out. Corrections, ambulance drivers, Border Patrol, SWAT, Homeland Security. They're all going to be there. So if you're out there, come And anybody else who wants to come out and have a community event, it's September 9th, 7 to 11 at the McKee Ranch. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jon Petrick, for coming on the show and explaining all that. And we're going to bring you back again so you could talk about your campaign because that's interesting. I don't want to go into that, but we'll do it another time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Steve. And thank
Absolutely.
you. Appreciate your crew.
Folks, that's Dr. Jon Petrick talking about the VA disability. He's going to start a program to help veterans get their disability rating or get their disability rating increase. See Dr. Jon Petrick. He'll take care of that. And this program was brought to you by Ron Quince, who's running for Congressional District 1, and Stephanie Phillips, who's running for U.S. Senate. This is Steve Sanson with Steve Sanson. Until next time.